Hey food fans, welcome to Cooking Like a Pro with Chef Cal and me, Mrs. Chef, his wife Christa DeMercurio. We're dishing out culinary intuition, insights, and imagination to spice up your meals and make cooking more fun. On today's episode, my chef husband and I discuss pomegranates. We have a Q&A on roast beef. We're getting ready for soup season, and we also give advice to those who want to be a chef. Let's dig in. Today's episode was broadcast and recorded live on AM/FM radio.
Welcome to Cooking Like a Pro. You have Chef Cal and my beautiful Mrs. Chef across the table for me.
Good evening.
Yeah, Mrs. Christa, or that's what they used to call her at schools. Yeah, she used to cook it for, I don't know, we fellowship at Low Country Church, and the school, they have a K through 8th grade there. Mm-hmm. So she was known as Mrs. Christa.
Actually, Mrs. D.
Mrs. D.
Yes.
She took over the kitchen, over the food.
Yes, I did. You taught me, and you left me to take it over and run with it.
and you did fantastic. Today I want to start off with something that's an interesting fruit. I knew something about them. I know a lot more now after playing around with them for the last couple of weeks, and that's pomegranates. We got 2 huge pomegranate trees in our property. There's got to be 150 pomegranates
loaded.
on
they are ready
each
to go.
tree. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put them in my little red wagon and go stand on the street. But and looking at some of the mythology of pomegranates and their healing properties and so many other things, but they originally were known as the holy fruit, and they are a natural aphrodisiac. They literally elevate your testosterone. So if we need any more of that.
Well, they say that Adam and Eve didn't necessarily partake of the apple tree, that it may have been a pomegranate tree.
It might have been a pomegranate tree that got them into trouble, and I know that, I feed those things to our chickens, and they're pretty excited about it, so maybe that's why it's raising our chickens' testosterone. Testosterone, does that mean they're going to start laying eggs faster?
That's guy chickens, honey, not girl chickens. We have girl chickens.
Oh, so they have, what do they have? Something different? Okay.
It's not guy chicken parts. It's girl chicken parts.
So we got to get a rooster now. All right, folks. We need a rooster. We are outside the city limits, so we can get a rooster. But anyway, it was, I looked up, mentioned many times, in scripture, actually, always in the Old Testament. So it was just something that was, apparently available, and it can grow in so many places because it's got such a hard exterior. So we have a deer problem now that deer season's over, where they're coming up and they're eating our herbs, they're eating our cherry tomatoes. I'm getting ready to fend them off. I'm not sure.
Well, at this point, I think we'll just let them mow down the rest of the tomatoes. I think we're done.
Let them mow down the rest? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, it's
Last Supper.
Well, we know it's something tall because
it's actually me.
Is that what you're...
I'm sneaking over and eating all your
Ben's coming over, and are you a tomato fiend?
I just listen to the show, I get hungry, and then I follow you guys home, eat your food, and then...
Well, they are delicious. We have the sun...
I can confirm, yeah.
We've got the sun gold,
sunburst, something like that, and there's more of a pear-shaped one, and
there was
some
yellow
round
pear,
ones.
yeah.
We had a great big one. We had the big BLT.
That was a beefsteak.
Yep.
My $30 tomato.
Yeah, $30 tomatoes.
Yeah, all the dirt, all the water, all the time. I get one tomato the entire year.
Well, it's pomegranate season now, so you should be seeing pomegranates in your stores. If you're not seeing them, you should be seeing them soon. They also increase, and I just went down this list of things, and it was they increase athletic performance. The Greeks used to eat them before, they went out in the Colosseum, I guess. And
really?
I don't think it saved them from the lions. I'm not overly sure of that. But the thing about it that most people, I think, have a challenge with is that they are a seed.
You had one open tonight just before we came over. I popped one in my mouth. I'm like, oh, I forgot these have seeds in them because I love juice.
Yeah.
The pomegranate juice. I love the pomegranate flavor, but I'm not partial to the seeds.
Well, the juice itself is often used in what we call grenadine.
Which I love.
So, which would have, a simple syrup, of course, added. But if you sprinkle them out in a salad, I mean, they are extremely good for you. And if you put them in a salad, it's almost just like eating croutons. There's certainly nothing wrong with them. You know, they are edible. You can sprinkle them in your yogurt, a variety of things. Ice cream toppings is one of the things I came across. But cereal, even put them in your cereal. Like if you have, you know, oatmeal or something in the morning. But what you do is you want to cut they call it the crowned side. So that's the side that is not growing from the tree.
That's the smooth side. Yeah. That's not where the little flower.
No, that is the flower, because the flower looks just like a crown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what you mean by
crown.
So
what you do is you cut that off, and again, that's really one of the challenges is that you get everything red. You know, you got to figure out a way not to do that. So I cut the end of it off, the crowned end, maybe about a ½ inch. And then I just scored the side, almost like you would if you were doing orange wedges, but just through the outside, just through the exterior. And then you just face it down in ice cold water, let it sit there for about 10 minutes and underwater, and then you just start picking it apart. And what's great is the seeds go straight to the bottom because of the weight.
And then all the pith floats to the
and
top.
Any pith or any the exterior. They had another name for it. I don't know what it was. It started with an A, but anyway.
So you don't have to like bang on them, because I mean I've seen so many things online, different techniques.
Yep, I watched that on YouTube a while back where they just kind of bang on it to bang them out. But this literally, I just from underwater using my fingers, I was able to just pry all the seeds off. They all went to the bottom. Then I took a little skimmer, skimmed off all those little particles, and then just put them on a towel so they would dry. And another thing to remember too is, when all the pomegranate seeds are together in there, they look very, very red because that's their dominant color. But when you take them out, they can be anywhere from, you know, a light pink to really white color.
Yeah, the ones you had there today that I saw was like, I thought pomegranate was red.
Nope, they still have all that fruit. Well, they're inside of, you know, that red, I think, just kind of, you know, pulls itself through. But they're delicious. They're delicious. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those. Again, you know, pomegranate martinis. We mentioned beverages, using them for things that you would normally call grenadine in for sweet, juicy, but they have that tartness. And that tartness comes from the seed. It's similar to what you would have if you for a grape seed.
I've never sat and ate grape seeds. Okay.
Well, if you've eaten grape, you've never had a grape that had a seed in it?
Oh, the seeded ones. Yeah. I try and stay away from those.
Well,
they're too much work.
You do the same thing with watermelon.
Okay.
You know, I mean, she's spoiled, folks.
Yeah, I am.
Literally, she's spoiled. I remember coming home and I brought this beautiful watermelon on the side of the road. Brought it home. It was a crimson. I remember that. It was a crimson red. And it was a beautiful watermelon. And it had seeds in it, and
I forgot that they had seeds because we always buy seedless.
I thought we were going to have to go into couples therapy or something because
it's work. It's work.
Well, I know, but when I was a kid, they didn't have. I do not remember seedless.
No, they didn't when we were little. And my dad would, you know, cut off a big old slab, you know, straight through the entire watermelon, a big old plate-sized round slab, like cut off a tree, and it would be full of seeds. But as a kid, it was fun to kind of pick them away and move them around.
Well, you spit them out. You get to spit them out your mouth.
I always flaked them away with a fork. I never.
No,
okay, different upbringing.
Yeah, apparently, but spit them out was one of the funnest things about the watermelon.
You probably spit out the sunflower seeds too.
Well, of course.
No,
not the seeds. You spit out the shell.
The shell. Yeah, okay.
The shell. So, but very nutritional, extremely nutritional, health benefits. They also, because they are this natural aphrodisiac, they'll help your mood, you know? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so if you hear me say something, sweetheart, like, you know, could you just go grab a pomegranate? Well, then you know that that's more of a mood swing.
All right.
That's needed.
Code for a pick-me-up.
Code, yes, code, or a safe word.
Okay, safe.
It's a safe.
Pomegranate's going to become a safe word.
Pomegranate, yeah. Well, don't ask me how to spell it, but they will, lower your blood pressure. I mean, they fight off cancer. They're mainly it comes down to the fact they're an antioxidant.
Oh, okay.
You know, so that's a good way. And anyway, and you know what? You'll like this too. They exfoliate your skin. So when you scrub your skin, like how women do.
Do you use it like the loofah? kind of?
The loofah.
It could be a loofah.
The loofah.
I'm going to have to look that one up.
Okay. Well, we'll come back as people are looking up loofah and pomegranates. But again, we appreciate you listening to Cooking Like a Pro. Back in just a moment. All right. Well, welcome back again to Cooking Like a Pro. And we really appreciate you folks tuning in. It's a thrill for us to be here because, food is our passion. And we have a question from that somebody sent to our podcast, which is Cooking Like a Pro podcast.net. Cooking Like a Pro podcast.net. And the question was, what kind of a roast do I get in order for it to become tender? And
because she's been married, she's like cooking the roast for 45 years, and she says, I have never had a not tough, not stringy roast. She says, I bought chuck roast, bottom rounds, rump roast, and I caramelize them, and I sear them, and I put them in the crock pot, and no matter what, they still come out tough and stringy. So what am I doing wrong?
Well, there's two words there, tough and stringy. Tough would just mean that it simply isn't being cooked long enough. Because eventually everything gets tender and it falls apart. Stringy would lend me to believe that it's being cut the wrong direction. Because, all beef is muscle fibers, and they're held together by connective tissue. So they're long strings of muscle, which the animal gets more of as it moves and works and runs and sleeps and whatever it is that it does. So you have to kind of think about the animal and think about where on this animal can I buy pieces of meat that don't work so hard. We call it working muscles and riding muscles. And the muscles that work are the ones in the front. That's where you get your chuck roast that comes off your shoulder. And then the ones in the back where you get your rump roast, you get your sirloin, and you can get a good steak out of sirloin as well. But that middle part are all the end with the loin, the tender loin, the strip loin, prime rib, ribeye. Those all come from that center of the animal that just kind of hold the animal together. So you want to get a more tender piece, but
what piece should you get? If you go to the store and you're not thinking about what part of the animal is, if you're looking at a label, what label should you be looking for?
I would get something that it sounds like what she said were good ideas. I mean, a chuck is fine. Anything that comes from the back sirloin. So basically anything that's a large piece of meat, cut it into about 1 inch to maybe 3/4 inch squares, or about the same size pieces. Brown those off, throw in your vegetables, and then cook it till it's tender. If you're talking about a crock pot, something that's slow cooking, the cooking process is melting down that connective tissue that's holding it together, right? That's what makes it chewy. So you have to break that down. That's why you have to use a wet cooking method. A dry cooking method, those items in the middle of the animal, you got your filet mignon, which comes off the tenderloin. You got your New York steak, which comes off the strip loin. You got your prime rib and your ribeye that comes out of that area. So those are all attached right in that middle area. So those you can do dry cooking, char grilling, sautéing, roasting. But if you're going to cook something in liquid, the cooking process is what breaks that down. So I would just cook it longer, cook it in a crock pot, put a lid on it, and then say, okay, it might take 8 hours. It might take 4 hours. I mean, when people say something is tough, well, I don't know how heavy their pot is. That's a big thing. The bottom of the pot has to be heavy enough. But on a crock pot, where it's surround cooking, same thing with Instapots. They'll cook it faster. They'll break down that connective tissue faster.
And you leave the entire thing whole. Should you ever cut a roast to a smaller size so it cooks faster?
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, that's what I would recommend. So you basically make it more of a stew. If you wanted to keep it whole, then it's just going to take longer to cook. And that's where I'd probably bring pressure in. Again, like an Instapot or something that's going to, or if you put something in the morning, when you head to work, and it cooks all day, it's going to be
so if you're looking at making actually like a whole roast, you go and you get go to the carving station, you get a slice of roast beef. So you just need to cook that longer? No, that's going to, now we're talking about something different. Now we're talking about something that's going to be on the, maybe on the upper rump area where what they call it top round.
which is that whole back butt end. It's got two sides of the butt there on the animal. You can take that there, and it doesn't have as much connective tissue, so you can roast that off, and that's going to give you something tender. If you want, let's say, make a roast beef sandwich.
So that's called a top round.
Top round.
As opposed to a bottom round.
Bottom round's going to be a little bit lower.
So a round is not a round. There's a top round and a bottom round. I did not know that.
Yeah. So just, I think you can, cook it under pressure if you've got something that is from a area of the animal, the anatomy of the animal, which is going to be tough. It's going to be muscular. So think about it that way. And I've been working on this cookbook, but the first chapter is actually all family recipes. And so I was excited about that. We got my mom's mac and cheese, that white mac and cheese that my son Joshua loves. It is favorite thing in the world. And of course, Dad's biscotti. The holidays are coming up. Dad's going to have to get going on his biscotti. He's really nailed that biscotti.
Yes, he has.
Yeah. Well, except for the time Mom mixed in. Well, I don't know if it was Mom, and she's probably listening, so I apologize, Mother. But somebody mixed the dried beans in with the pistachios.
Oh, I didn't know about that when that happened.
So instead of getting a nice pistachio, you got this rock hard bean.
Whoops.
My aunt, Dare, when she was alive, she gave me a recipe for a spinach, strawberry, banana, avocado salad with poppy seed dressing.
Yeah, you talked about that one a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I've done that in several restaurants. So it's just a great combination. And it's unique. You don't really get spinach anymore. About the only time you see spinach is maybe with a warm bacon dressing or something. Or after that, it's probably cooked, sautéed, creamed, whatever. But
now you got me thinking. I see sometimes, regular spinach and baby spinach. What's the difference? Just a younger growing?
Yeah, one's just younger, and like anything else, the older it gets, the tougher it's going to get. And then, of course, Grandpa's barrel chicken. My dad showed me how to make that when I was so young, and I recall. Oh, I don't know how many years ago it was. Grandpa, I remember, he passed away back in the late, it was 1989, but he used to do this barbecue sauce, and he never wrote it down, and I remember my mother giving me a cookbook once, Better Housekeeping, I think it was, something like that. I was going through
Sunset. It was a Sunset.
Yeah, and it tells you how to fix your washer and dryer, and, what to do if your breaker goes out, and how to, how to knit mittens for kids. And then
how to build a barbecue.
And then it's got some food. Yeah. It not only shows you how to cook on a barbecue, how to build it. But anyway, there was a page there with a barbecue sauce recipe, and it literally had Grandpa's fingerprints. There must have been 50 fingerprints from, him. We're using those two pages and having the barbecue sauce on his fingers. So that was something that, was very precious to me, and there's those blessings in life. If you look for the blessings, you'll find them. They're out there.
So speaking of barbecue sauce, going back to making a roast, would you use the barbecue sauce when you're cooking a roast?
No, I wouldn't. If you want some acid in there, you do want some acid, so you can use anything from tomato to normally it would be tomato paste, like what we used when I showed you how to make the stock the other day. Mm-hmm. But you could use anything. Tomato ketchup would work if that's all you got, or on barbecue sauce. But as a flavoring afterwards, I wouldn't do it beforehand. And it will give it that caramel amber look to it instead of that flat, brown board color. But you can make the same meal at home for about 25% of what it is costing you to go out and get it, and that adds so much more to the cooking and to the atmosphere. You end up. It's better for your mental health. It's always going to be healthier for you to buy your foods and cook them for you because you know the source of where they came from. So,
you're in control of the process too, and all the additives and stuff like that.
Better nutrition, just a lot of things that one of the things that I see was like even manners, social behavior, just getting the family together at the table. That's what we need to start doing, folks. We want to get the country back in shape. Let's get the family back at the table. So, Cooking Like a Pro, we'll be back in just a moment. There you go, folks. There you go. We are supposed to be having fun, right? This is the only life we get. Let's live it. Let's have some fun. And food is where so much of that is comes from. I'm just tailgating a little bit on our previous discussion in the last block that about food and being fun, having fun, and enjoying family together, and our family. We're loud Italian family, so there can be all kinds of discussions going on. But
well, I had fun last night. I made your mother's enchiladas. How did I do? Did I do okay?
You did. You did good. You did good. You did that for the Boy Scouts.
Yes, I did.
Is there an enchilada merit badge, or what was?
No, it was kind of an addition to the cooking merit badge. They already wrapped that up, but they wanted to learn how to make enchiladas, so I made those last night and took some Costco chicken and broke it down, made it into that, and then took the bones and made a stock. Yep,
I seen it. You did that. I left it alone. I didn't touch a thing. I caramelized some onions and kind of just stood out of your way. Had the chili brick. Chili brick's always something. It's a frozen chili concoction that you can get. It used to be made by Denison's. I'm not sure.
No, it's not Denison's. It's Johnson's.
Yeah, it used to be.
Whoever Johnson's is.
Yeah, so anyway, you can get it in the frozen section. So if you want to make a chili, go to the freezer of your store and tell them you want chili brick. They might not know what it is, so.
But I've got a quart of chicken stock left over, because I only used 2 cups for the actual enchilada, so I got a quart of chicken stock. What can I do with it?
Soup. That leads us right into our next category, soup. Why? Because it's fall. Fall's in the air. I was cold this morning when I went
down to the 40s.
Outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great thing. It's a great thing for a lot of things. One is it's communal. It's something that you just put a pot out there and people can just help themselves. The more great way to use up your leftovers. That's what I did at DeMercurio's. I'd walk in every day and I'd open up the freezer and open up the reach-ins or refrigerators. I'd look around because every day you got soup. Everyone that came in got soup and salad. In fact, if I look back, that's probably the only advice I really remember my dad giving me when it came to the restaurant when we first started. He said, make sure people get full. So we were at DeMercurio's restaurant. We were there for 18 years, and you always got soup and salad. And in writing this cookbook, I'm going back and I'm looking at these multi-course, just extravagant meals for like $30, including wine or something, or $15, and it's 5 courses. And
so what's your favorite soup? I mean, you can make any soup. We can literally make any type of soup. But do you have a favorite?
Well, I taught a class in soup making for at the college level for, I don't know, a decade and a half or something. So it's really kind of hard. Depends on the mood. Of course, thinner soups in the summertime. Good gazpacho that's made real well. Use a little like Bloody Mary mix for the background flavor. It'll get a little spice in it. But going into the fall right now, you really want the thicker soups and cream of anything. Cream of cauliflower, cream of broccoli.
Butternut squash.
Yeah. And most of those are made. Yeah, butternut squash is a great one. But most all cream soups, in fact, if you're a vegetarian and you go to a restaurant and you're having and the soup of the day is cream of, carrot. Make sure to ask them whether there is any protein in there in the sense of animal protein, because
a lot of times they'll use a chicken stock instead of vegetable stock.
Chicken stock is almost always used it's used in your minestrone. It's used in a bunch of them. But I'd have to say probably French onion. Cream of 7 onion is a good one, and I know we actually put that one on.
That one's on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. You can go to YouTube and.
You can try to search at YouTube. We're not in the algorithm very good yet. So if you just go to culinaryyours.net, that will get you to YouTube.
Well, if you go to YouTube and type in, cream of 7 onion soup,
you'll will get come up.
Because it's like the only one on there.
Yeah, it's the only one on there.
The normally French onion soup is what it is. It's a beef broth, enhanced with tomato, your bouquet garni, of course, like we talked about stocks last week. your parsley, bay leaf, and thyme. And then just as many onions as you can put in there. You cannot put too many onions
in French onion soup.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the onions.
Yeah, and then you might tighten it up if it needs it, but a slurry would work. A little cornstarch would be fine. Cornstarch and water. Get it to the right consistency, because one of the best things, of course, that makes the soup is having all that melted, bubbly cheese on top. Now, the French, and usually some croutons between the soup, and then some toasty croutons, so they don't, soak up into the soup. They should stay nice and toasty. But generally, it's going to be a combination of some kind of a Swiss cheese. Usually, it's Gruyere, and then Romano and Parmesan. It's 3 different cheeses, and they can be whatever you want. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for something that melts, like it's real stringy, if that's your look, then you would go with mozzarella. That's why they use mozzarella on pizza, because it holds everything together. So when you get that big stretch, and there's actually a term for that stretch. I don't know.
Cheese pull. It's the cheese
the pulls?
It's the pull.
Is it the pull?
Yeah, it's a cheese pull. So with the French onion soup, I've heard some people say they put a big giant crouton on top, but you'd have to cut through that. Some put small croutons, and some do soufflés. I mean, can you vary the type of bread on top?
Yeah, anything. It's basically, the idea is just to keep the cheese on top while it melts. So usually there's a couple thin slices of crostini on an angle, and you put a couple pieces on there, and because you want the consistency. It's like I was over visiting Mom and Dad today, and Mom was making clam chowder. And it was a little bit thin, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. What did she do to thicken it up?
Did she put a roux in it?
No, it was already cooked.
It was already cooked? Cream?
Nope.
Okay.
You have to bring it out. I know that you know this.
Okay, she's thickening a clam
chowder that was already made.
It was already made.
Yeah. How many times have I said, where are the mashed potatoes?
Oh, you did trick me on that one.
Because there are potatoes actually in clam chowder.
Yeah.
And
so
potatoes,
like potato buds, potato
flakes, potato pearls, whatever type of potato.
Potato starch.
We used to use those all the time, especially in a vegetable soup. You get done, maybe your broccoli cheddar isn't quite where you want it as far as consistency. You don't want it, sticky, or really even stringy for that matter, but you want it, to be tighter, of course, and some instant mashed potatoes.
There you go.
Yeah, I always kept them around because you never could tell. Because when you're in a hurry, and all of a sudden it's like, gosh, that needs to be thick. Like I said, you mentioned cream. Well, the cream would have to cook down for a while. You mentioned roux, and the flour would have to cook out for a while. So when you're in a hurry, it's almost like using a xanthan gum as a cold food stabilizer. You can use mashed potatoes as a warm food stabilizer.
So I'm thinking of another soup that I have not had in forever. My mom used to make when I was little. It's a beef barley soup.
Beef barley, and then that falls in the thin. So soups are basically broken up into just a few different categories. Generally, there's 5. But you have thick soups, like we talked about, maybe cream of broccoli, cheddar. Then you have thin soups, like a beef barley. Chicken noodle would be certainly one of the.
Because you leave it more brothy.
Yep. Then you can go to a national soup. You can also use a bisque. A bisque is very similar to a creamed soup, like a creamed vegetable soup, but a bisque would generally always signify that there was shellfish in it.
Okay, so it is seafood. So it's a seafood bisque of some sort.
So lobster bisque would be probably the most popular one that's out there that you'll see. But there are a lot of them. Minestrone, that would come off of a broth base, right? Because a minestrone has a broth. It's not thickened up. It might get a little bit tighter because of pasta. And here's one thing when I'm making soup, if I'm using a starch, and you mentioned barley earlier, I cook that separate, and then we add it as it goes out. Like in a restaurant, we might say, okay, here's some barley right next to it. You throw in a tablespoon of barley, and then you put the nice hot, broth soup over it, kind of like you would in a consommé. The consommé is named after its garnish, so basically it's the garnish that's in there. Then you pour on this super, super flavorful, completely crystal clear liquid.
Yeah, because a lot of times in the past I would make a minestrone, be fantastic flavor, and then I'd put in the potatoes and the pasta, and then all the liquid would disappear, all the flavor would disappear. So then I started thinking, okay, what if you cook the pasta separate?
Yeah, starch soaks it all up. So that's the whole purpose behind if you're putting even chicken rice soup. I do the same thing. I can keep the rice separate, and because for one, it's getting the right portion, and you're also not getting this just bowl of starchy, noodles or rice or some other kind of starch. Instead of a nice, well-rounded bowl of soup.
Now, do you do just a plain rice or plain pasta, or can you cook them in a stock just so they get a little bit of flavor in them too?
You could cook them in stock, but I wouldn't worry about it because you really kind of want. I mean, if I'm adding barley, for example, to something, then I'm adding that because I want that nuttiness. I want that earthiness. I don't need it to taste like a particular type of protein. So I would be neutral with that. And appreciate you tuning in, and we'll be right back to talk a little bit more about food. Cooking Like a Pro, Chef Cal and Mrs. Chef Christa. Welcome back to Cooking Like a Pro. I really wanted to let out a, kind of a James Brown scream there. I wasn't sure in the middle of what? Yeah, I can't do it for one. You're the singer. You're the one you're the one with the vocal cords. But yeah, I don't know. My wife did. She kind of chastised me off the air, so I just since she did it off the air and I don't have it on tape, I have to say it. And it was this segment I wanted to talk a little bit about a question I get a lot, which has to do from people that want to be a chef. And I brought this up a couple of weeks ago to Charlou, and it's like, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
My response was, don't do it.
Yeah.
Run.
Yeah, but well, it is. It's difficult.
You have to have the passion first.
Yeah, you have to have a passion for two things. You have to have a passion to serve people, and you have to have a passion about food, about loving food, about treating it right, about respecting it. One of the things that really I don't know. I get taken back when I see it is people mistreating the food. Like carrying a fish by the tail, I know when I go up to Pier, what is that, Pier 51? What's the one up in?
The one up in
is it Seattle?
Seattle,
where they throw the fish, and I'm just thinking, wow, they're breaking all the vertebrae and it's pulling all those fillets apart, but yeah, you need to take care of it, and especially we mentioned and talked about lettuces. Last week, and these are things that bruise, things that you have to be careful of and careful with, and that's why storing is such a big thing. But I do have a lot of people get a hold of me, and this happens quite often, and they say, hey, my son wants to be a chef. Yeah, he really likes to cook. I said, well, if he really likes to cook, it takes some stamina. It certainly the atmosphere is different than it was. I don't think you'd have to worry about getting hit, in this day and age. But those European chefs were pretty mean. Everything was kind of like when you see like Ramsay on TV, Gordon Ramsay in Hell's Kitchen, that kind of stuff. I don't really watch that stuff, but it's that type of command. It's like an army. It's a brigade. But it's like an army brigade. And there is only one person in charge of the army.
Well, that's
where the chef.
Yeah, that all comes from the military. Chef. Military is where the current kitchen was designed from.
Yes, chef. I've been trying to get her to just to address me that way around the house. Now we're coming up on 20 years of marriage, and she's never said yes, chef. Yet, so I don't know. Maybe.
Yes, chef.
Yes, there you go. Fine, I'm gonna
I'll start, and I'll get the next producer to start addressing you as such.
Yes, if you could splice that out, yeah.
Yes, chef.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Ben.
Yes, chef.
Yeah. But find a place to go through. Basically, there's a couple different ways to do it. And if you want to do a journeyman or an apprenticeship, you can get on with an organization that's nationwide called the American Culinary Federation. That's what I did back in 1978. I graduated my apprenticeship in 81. And it's just very well-rounded. But then it's more of a journeyman style where you're getting a paycheck as you're working. Plus, you're finishing high school, going into college, so you always got to eat, which is always a benefit. But I just really loved it. I don't know that the servanthood part of it was there at the beginning. It certainly became that when touching tables became such a big thing for me, and that's one of the chapters in my book. Touching tables is it's just, that's how you connect with people. That's how you see someone and you enjoy yourselves and you have conversation and you have a community, because food is community. And in order for it to be community, you can't be by yourself. So that was a big part of it.
Well, I found an interesting quote as I'm writing these smaller cookbooks that we'll have for sale here in a few weeks. One quote I found by Chef Alain Chappelle. He said, "You have to love either what you're going to eat or the person you are cooking for. Then you have to give yourself up to cooking. Cuisine is an act of love."
There you go. I remember Charlie Trotter signed one of his books, After Love, There is Only Cuisine.
It is. It's a passion project.
Yeah, I got to figure out, well, how am I going to sign my book? Now, first off, I got to get the thing done. But I remember Thomas Keller was, it's all about finesse. And finesse is one of those things that, when I talk about being in a kitchen, first off, we talked about the tyranny of a recipe last week. Well, I wanted to mention the tyranny of mundane tasks, because you have to be the type of person that does not mind doing something that's mundane. Because if you're going to cut an onion for onion soup, you're cutting a 50-pound bag.
Okay, so
you're cutting onions for an hour, so you better not have a problem with doing the same thing over and over and over, because that's.
I was literally thinking about this yesterday as I'm pulling all of the chicken meat off of the bones.
Uh-huh.
And that took quite a while to do, pulling each little piece off. And I'm going, but what got me through it is I had a podcast going. So you're able to kind of check out on what you're physically doing, but then, still keep your mind going with, some sort of learning elsewhere. So to be able to kind of not see it as something that is mundane, but something that you are accomplishing for family and for friends, but you can also take your mind off of it. And
was it a food podcast?
Actually, it was. I was listening to Gordon Ramsay.
Oh man! I feel violated.
I was learning how to make lobster ravioli.
Well, fine. I can teach you how to make lobster ravioli. You don't have to go to another chef. Wow. I don't know. Hey, Ben, we might need to get into couples therapy.
Yes, chef.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. But anyway, but when they ask me this question, what advice do you have for someone that's young that wants to do it again? If they love to do it, they love to work with their hands. It is, high temperature and long periods of time on your feet. But I imagine, a lot of jobs are. And again, it's not like, 12 hours in a dungeon peeling potatoes like, Michel Richard told me, back when he was, starting off when he was 12 years old in Lyon, France. But it has evolved and modified to what it is today.
Now, so before you go signing up for the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America, which is probably one of the biggest ways to go to learn
in the world.
Just go work in a restaurant, experience it, shadow someone. I mean, these schools are expensive.
Yeah, find out if it's something if it's something you want to do. And again, and I didn't go to chef school, and I made it to, I would have to say, the epitome of my profession. I mean, I think if you can get all the way to winning a gold medal in the World Cooking Olympics, that you've what you've done to train yourself and the people you've surrounded yourself with, that you've been successful.
Well, and you went all the way to certified executive chef, which, executive chef is one thing, but he's certified by the American Culinary Federation. It is a lot of work. You have to go through testing. You have to prove yourself.
That was 25 years. I was a certified executive chef for 25 years. There's only one step higher,
which is certified master chef.
And yes, we were blessed to speak with Chef Bert Catino down at the Sardine Factory. You go down to the Sardine Factory, you definitely tell him that Chef Cal from Redding, California said hi to Chef Bert. He's 85 years old and he's still there.
He is running the show.
And he is. It was one of the, I would say not one, probably the most emotional experience I've ever had with another chef. I've had a lot of them. I've been very blessed to work with a lot of people that are no longer with us, and many that are.
Because he's passionate about the restaurant business. He's passionate about people, passionate about serving.
Yeah. And we keep coming back to that word, passion. It has to be something that you're excited about doing, because it is a lot of work, and there has to be something that kind of separates you. And but I've taught everywhere from kindergartners all the way through fairly elderly folks when I was teaching adjunct out at the college, and other traveling to schools and teaching etiquette and teaching manners and like which fork to use. And when it's prom season, I used to go out, because restaurants hate prom season because the kids just don't know how to act. They put their gum under the table. They all get up and go to the bathroom at the same time. They don't know to hold the door open for someone. Just crazy stuff.
I think we have one of those tables with a gum underneath it still.
We do. We actually have a table from the hatch cover.
Yeah, and I looked underneath it one time and
oh my,
that's
yeah.
right.
So there's some serious DNA under that table, and that DNA that is that's 50 years old. So I don't know. Maybe we should auction off just the gum. I don't know. But anyway, it is one of those few things we have left. But as far as finishing up, just advice to young culinarians. Again, food's about community. You need to serve. You need to have the passion for it. You need to like to work with your hands. You need to be creative. Not creative until I remember the chef when I came up and I said something to him. I said, "Chef, I got this great idea about how we could tweak this item." And he said, "Well, great. When you become chef, we'll look at it." I said, "Yes, chef."
Yes, chef.
Yes, chef. Yeah, it wasn't about he said, because there is a hierarchy, and there needs to be, because there's so many moving parts, in a kitchen. It's just things are flying and things are moving, and there's people all over, and somebody has to kind of be the leader to bring that in.
And you do have to get to be mentally tough at a point. But for me, learning from you, I said the one word, also fascination. Food can be so fascinating in how it works and how the flavors meld. There's just you got to learn it, understand it.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. Until next time, we hope you'll be cooking up a storm in the kitchen. So we'll be with you again next week with food, flavor, and fun right here on Cooking Like a Pro podcast.